Hello and welcome to the videos for week 2, in which we'll be dealing with strings, objects and methods. In the first of these videos we're dealing with strings and the print statement. So the strings are just a data type in the same way that ints and floats were data types that we introduced last week. We'll be using strings to process text, just a sequence of characters. A literal value in a computer program is just a constant value. So 10, the int value 10, is a literal, there we see a literal constant on the right, and we can look at the value that we've just assigned to I, and we can even go in and say, what is the type of I? The type is a built-in function in Python. We can ask Python what type it has determined I to be, and it's telling us here it's a float. We can have literal constants that are floating point values, so f is 23.5, and we can say what's the type of f? What type has the Python engine determined f to be? We can define literals for strings by enclosing them in matching delimiter characters, and those delimiter characters must be either a single open quote, a single quote, double quotes, or matching triple quotes, as we'll see in the following examples. So if I open with a single quote and say hello 121, I've now created an object that's a string object on the computer's memory that has the value, the sequence of characters, hello 121, and s refers to it, so we can inspect in the shell the value associated with s, and it's a string hello 121. I can also use the double quote character to delimit my strings. So here is another, if I could spell, string. So I've matched my double quote character at the beginning and end, and we have, here is another string. So it's just representing that as a string on the computer's memory. And I could also use triple quotes, either single or double, for yet another string. So I've opened with triple single quotes, so I'm closing with triple single quotes. We must match. Okay, so it's very easy to use literals to create strings, but the delimiters at the beginning and end must match. Pictorially, exactly the same thing is going on as we looked at last week. When we do an assignment statement, the right-hand side is evaluated first, and it yields an object that sits on the computer's memory. So, hi there, class 121 would be that's the literal constant that I'm creating on the right-hand side of the assignment statement. Then by saying s equals that, I'm creating a reference from s, a new entry on the dictionary, to that object on the computer's memory. Anyone who's familiar with programming in C or Java, Python does not have a special type for representing a single character. You won't miss it. It's working with strings is very easy. Last week in some of the lectures I did start using the print function that's built into Python. It's very useful for allowing us to inspect the values or produce output in our computer programs. So the syntax of the print function is the keyword print, then our open and close parentheses for passing in 1 or 0 actually, or more arguments to the function. So we can have an expression followed by a series of other expressions separated by commas. So that's what these square brackets that I'm using here represent, and the ... just represents there can be more. Okay, so we can pass in one expression separated by a comma and then a series of other expressions. So for instance, I can say print hello. Okay, that's perfectly legal. I can print hello and there. So what I'm doing in this second case is I'm passing in 2 arguments to the print function. And as we can see here, that's perfectly okay. We can pass in a series of arguments to this function. And what it's doing is it's separating each of the arguments with a space. So you might imagine, because I've got ... here, we can actually do this repeatedly. Hello, whoops, hello, there, 121, full stop, impressive. Now my full stop's going to appear in the wrong place, but you can get the idea, hopefully. Okay, hello there, 121, space, full stop, impressive. All right, so I've passed 4 arguments in this case into the print statement. So what the print statement does is it's just printing the values of the expressions on the screen, and it uses spaces to separate the output expressions. We'll be using the print statement a lot in our programs, or in the shell, as the examples I've been using here do, to generate output for the user to see the results of your program. Right, so let's try a short little program. I will type it in here, n equals 10, s equals n is print n, then print s comma n, and print n is followed by n. Okay, so we've got 3 different statements requesting input. We're creating a new entry on the dictionary for n, and n refers to the int value 10. We're creating a new entry on the dictionary for s, and s is the string n is. We'll print out n, which should that's an expression, a single expression being passed into the print function. And the print function doesn't mind too much what types it receives. It's perfectly happy to print them out regardless. So that's going to produce the output 10. Then we'll have the second statement that will produce n is, and then there's a second argument referring to n, so we'll see n is 10. And then we'll see in the third case we're passing in a literal to the first argument for the print statement, for the print function, and we'll see n is 10 again. So if I run that, oh, I need to save it first. So I'll save it just as untitled 5. I'll have a messy file hierarchy. And I'll run this program. It's restarting the shell, and we're seeing exactly what we expected. 10, n is 10. That's first n is 10 is produced by line 4. Then the second n is 10 is produced by line 5. Okay? So you might like to try using some assignment and print statements in combination right now and check that the output is what you expected. We have a choice between the different types of delimiters we use for our string literals. We can use single quotes to open and end the string. We can use double quotes, we can use triple single quotes, or triple double quotes. So what's the general recommendation? Well, that would be to use the double quote character, the single double quote character, unless the string itself needs to contain a double quote character, and then use the single quote character. So for example, if I have a string literal and I want it to contain the double quote character, like he said hi to her, I'm wanting my string to contain 2 double quote characters, so I've delimited it with a single quote character, and it's a perfectly reasonable string. Okay. One more recommendation would be if the string literal is to contain a new line character, then use triple quotes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that it's Python is showing me the ... the shell is showing me the ... to say I'm still expecting more until you give me the delimiter for the end of this string. So there we go. And now I can print s to look at the content of that string, and we'll see that the new line characters have been preserved. Doc strings, of course, are another example where we will be wanting you to use the triple quote characters. Actually, that's a requirement for doc strings. In the same way that we can extend strings over multiple lines, we can also extend statements over multiple lines. Generally, statements end at the new line character. The exceptions to that are if there is a string inside triple quotes, as we've just seen, or if there's a bracketed construct, such as the parenthesis for a list of arguments, for example, or in a complex mathematical expression, or as we'll see later, within lists structures. But it does look ugly, so try to avoid it unless you have very good reason to maintain writing statements across multiple lines. So the general style guideline is avoid multi-line statements except within lists, which we'll see later. There are a variety of special characters we can also use within strings. Okay, so we've seen one way of creating a string that contains multiple lines here by enclosing it in a triple quotes. But another way, let's say we've got a variable s2, and we're going to create s2 as a string with some new lines in it. And I'll say 1 fish, write a short poem by Dr. Seuss. 2 fish, \n, 3 fish. Let's finish there. So in this case, I'm using \n as a special character to mean new line. So s2 now refers to the string that's on the computer's memory, but this time if I print s2, what we'll see, it actually extends across multiple lines. So \n is a special character meaning new line. \t is a special character meaning tab. \quote means single quote. \double quote means double quote. And \\/ is a backslash. That's it for now. In the next video, we'll look at some string operators. Thanks.